morning or afternoon, as the case may be. It brings me great pleasure to introduce my boss, Dr. Lamar Goree. On your table, you have information if you want to read over his bio, but I'm going to kind of take a page from a favorite children's book that I read to my children when they were young. It was about a grandmother reading a story to her grandson. And she was reading that bedtime story, and then it says, "And then she departed the text." And that's when it really got interesting. So I'm going to tell you right now how very pleased and proud I am to be working for Dr. Goree. He has all of the background that we need him to have as a leader in Shrevary. He grew up here, he has family here, he cares about our community, and he's invested here already. He's bought a home, his son's in school here, his family's moving here soon from Texas, his daughter and his wife. He has a background of educational experiences to develop his leadership capacity so that he brings us new ideas built on proven practices that will benefit our community. From the day he has arrived, he's been engaged with our community. There's been kind of a chasm, if you will, between our community that cares about education and our school system. And I'm really proud of what he's doing to bring us back together again, because I've never seen a community so dedicated to young people before in my life. I can tell you that he has the educational experience as well as the practical experience. He does the three things that I believe make the greatest difference in education. There are 3 M's. He models what he believes in. He mentors others to grow in that direction, and he monitors to make sure that we live up to those high expectations. I could go on, but I know you can all read, and if you want the details of his bio, they're available on your table. But I hope you'll join me and support him in every way possible. Lamar Goree.
Thank you very much for that introduction, Gail. Can everyone hear me? Good. I am so excited to have the opportunity to speak to my club, my Rotary Club today, about what things that are going on and things that we're doing in Caddo Parish Public Schools. It's really interesting as I look out over the room and the landscape of the room, and as Gail said, since I've arrived in the city, one of the first charges that I had from the school board was to really re-engage the community. I've spent a lot of time and a lot of hours doing that, and it's really encouraging to look out at all of the faces that I've already met with in this venue or in other places, and to look at the people that I know have a firm interest and support in seeing this school district move forward. What I will tell you is that my favorite part of these opportunities is your time to interact with me and ask questions. So I'm going to race through a few slides, talk a little bit, but then I want you to have an opportunity to really interact with me. If you see if you look at the screen, it says reimagining our schools. We're spending a lot of time and effort in our school district in talking about what does it really mean to reimagine our schools? What does it really mean to have a school district of schools that are all performing at or above an acceptable level? What does it mean to really be an efficient district? Those are some of the things that we are talking about. Now, the first thing I'll talk about, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about myself. And again, I'm not going to go off the script. I'm just going to talk a little bit about myself, because I do believe I am a unique candidate to lead this school district. If you look at the media and a lot of the things after the first 6-6 vote, a lot of things talked about wanting a candidate that had home team ties. I think that, my superintendent mentor always told me that, Lamar, you're a good guy, but you're only perfect for one job at one time. There's no such thing as a perfect superintendent. And I do believe that the city was at a point where they wanted someone that had some connections to the city. I do believe I was a unique candidate in that respect, in that I was born and raised right here in Shreveport, Louisiana. All of my public school education came from Caddo Parish Schools. I think even more powerful than that, both of my parents were career Caddo Parish educators. My father, Theodis Goree Sr., was a science teacher at Huntington High School for many years, for over 38 years of service in this district. And my mother, Glenda Goree, was a counselor in this district, also with 38 plus years of service. So that may be a unique candidate. You know, I often tell the joke that every vacation I went on, every pair of shoes as a child that I received had some ties back to Caddo Parish Public Schools. So I certainly have an interest in seeing this place do well. As a student, I did my elementary education at Hillsdale Elementary School, then under the leadership of Dr. Joseph Carter, who I actually had an opportunity to visit with on Saturday. In the 6th and 7th grade, I went to Walden Hill. The funny story about Walden Hill was that if you know anything about the school, Mr. Harderson, who's currently the principal, when I was in 6th grade, he was a 28-year-old principal in his 2nd year at Walden Hill. So there is a reason why Walden Hill runs well. After that many years, I think he's figured everything out. So I did those 2 years there. In the 8th grade, I had an opportunity, my mother and I both went to Turner in 1984. That was the first year that Dr. James Beckett opened Turner Elementary Middle School. And I do believe that's where the leadership bug actually took off. Dr. Beckett provided us with so many opportunities to serve in leadership roles. I mean, we were selecting mascots, selecting colors, establishing honor societies, establishing honor choirs and athletic programs. And I do believe that's where the bug actually took off. And then I went to Huntington High School. I had wonderful years there, participated in football, ROTC, Honor Society, Key Club, numerous organizations. Now, after I finished at Huntington, I went off to Morehouse College. And I often tell people that my first 2 years at Morehouse College were not challenging. I felt like I was repeating high school. And that is the experience that I want every child to have when they leave the school district. I'm so encouraged when I hear Cole's story, and hear that Cole has, been able to secure funding. He's in an honors program at college. That's what we should want for all of our children. We should want all of them to leave this school district prepared for the next stage in life. And when we talk about reimagining schools, those are some of the very things that we're looking at. How can we do in the school district? Very proud that I'm married to a home team girl, my wife Kimberly. Also graduated from Huntington High School, and Kim came through this system as well. Went through she did a few magnet schools along the way. I'm a total neighborhood school boy, but she did a couple of magnet schools along the way, and we have 2 beautiful children, Morgan and Madison. Morgan is a junior at Captain Shrevary. He came over with me when I came in December and has had a great experience. He's a soccer player, so their soccer season was really good this year. And our daughter Madison is a little different. She's my diva child, and she just didn't see what me getting a promotion had to do with her moving. So, and Madison truly did have 2 phenomenal teachers, so we chose to let her and the wife finish the school year out in Texas. I want to talk about, as I travel the city, I talk a lot about what I describe as a triangular relationship. And this is the school, the community, and the family, and how those 3 actually interact with each other. What I will tell you is that it's my belief that we won't be the very best school district that we can be until all 3 of those are working together. Now, we can be a good school district, but for us to be a great school district, we need all 3 to work together. When we talk about the school, I believe it is the school's responsibility to provide every child with what Cole and I experience. When you leave 12th grade, you should be prepared to be successful at the next level. Now, in order for that to happen, you heard a lot of talk about this thing called Common Core. I do think when you look at the Common Core standards, I do believe any successful school district has to have standards, and they must have curriculums that support that standard. Now, if you don't have standards, you don't know where you're going. And if you don't have a curriculum to support the standard, you don't know how you're going to get there. So I do believe that fundamentally, we as a school district must provide every child with a very solid curriculum and instruction that leads to them being successful in the future. I do believe the family, though, has a lot of responsibilities. Now, providing the education is the role of the school. However, supporting that is the role of the family. Now, I'm realistic, and I know that many of our families don't have the academic skill set to teach the information. However, we do have the ability to support it, and that's something that I'm really working on throughout our whole school district. We really must have a whole family buy-in to what we're doing in school. Some things that any family can do as well is, if you look at your child's academic struggles or behavior struggles, it's the job of the family to make sure that the school's aware of that. Now, I do believe a family is more than the mother and father. I do think that grandparents are included in that. And it's really important that we are supporting developing children who are behaving, and we're supporting developing kids that come home and actually work on their homework, and we're supporting checking over the homework. What I will tell you that if you're encountering problems with that, the school's available. The school can help support parents in how they can support their kids. Behavior is key. If I look at some of our struggling schools and I look at the number of behavior incidents, it generally goes along with, there's a correlation with the struggles and the number of behavior problems. That's where we need families to step in. And what I'll tell you is we need grandparents to step in to help us with holding our children accountable. So often, I call it the did you see and do it generation. So often, we're hearing from parents that if you didn't see the child do something, it didn't happen. But that's not the case. We need to hold children responsible for being children. And then what we're doing is we're doing them a huge favor in the future if we hold them responsible now. The next thing I'll talk about is community. The community is very important to the success of our school district. As I've said on numerous occasions, I spent a lot of time traveling the community, and I've been quoted in the paper with a statement that I often make, is that it is clear to me that this community has not given up on public education. You know, if you look at a city like ours where 95% of school-aged children are participating in our public school system, that's a system that has not given up on public education. I can think of numerous opportunities, even from persons who have children in private schools or people that support charter schools, where I've gone out soliciting funds and support, and I have been overwhelmingly supported as a public school system. That means that we have not given up on public school education. I am working with numerous organizations and groups that show the commitment of this community. What I challenge each of you to do is to let that continue. Many of you in this room, it would be unfair if I said to start supporting, because many of you are already supporting what we do in public school at so many levels. But what I can ask that you remember is that we as a school district we play a major role in the economic development of this city. If you look at businesses, when they locate to different cities, the first thing they want to know is about the quality of the education system. It's my belief that until we are at least all of our schools are at an acceptable level and many above that, we're not going to attract the quality of businesses that we need in a city of this class. And we can do it. We as a school district are committed to doing what it takes to get our schools up to par. The situation at Westwood under Renee Ellis's leadership is one example. We look to see that happen on numerous levels. And I'll talk a little bit about what we're doing a little later in my presentation. To recap, the school's going to provide the strong education. The family's going to provide the day-to-day support, what I call the first line support. And the community is going to provide that overarching support so that everything can work well. All three components are very important. The one that we oftentimes forget about that could easily be seen as the most important is what we're doing as a community, because the schools affect everything that we have in the community. I'll talk to you about a couple things that are currently going on in Caddo Parish. First off, Common Core. Common Core is a set of standards, and I know that you hear this Common Core term a lot in the media, and rightfully so, because it's become political, and that's what we hear. When things become political, we hear about them in the media. But what Common Core is, it's a set of standards that have been adopted by some 47, 48 states. And the standards actually, what it means is that the belief is that if you've mastered these standards, you will be college and career ready. Now, there's a lot of controversy about that. What my argument always is that if not Common Core, then what standards will we use? Louisiana as a state adopted Common Core in 2010 and has not put forth any effort to develop an alternative group of standards if Common Core is not the standards that we use. Not saying it has to be Common Core, but we do need standards. We as a school district don't need to pick our own standards. We need standards to be set so we know what we're working towards. So in that respect, since it is still the law, as a school district, we are developing curriculum, aggressively I should say, developing curriculum, starting with our teachers and with other organizations to develop curriculum that support what we're doing in schools. Very important to add, we are not the school district that believes in going out and buying a curriculum. Because Common Core is in so many states, there are many companies that are producing what they're calling curriculums and materials, and they're just hoping that school districts will spend their money on it because it's easy. We're not taking that route. We're working with teachers, we're working with our state association so that we can develop a curriculum that meets the needs of our teachers in our school district. And I feel really strongly about that. Not gonna just go out and buy stuff. I'll talk a little bit about, well, before I go to that, I want to talk also about our RTI process. We're working very aggressively on refining our response to intervention program. And what that talks about, when we talk about response to intervention, is how are we providing support to struggling students. And I was guilty. As a teacher, I would give a test and grade the test. You make a 50, put the 50 in the book, move on to the next unit. We're smarter than that now. We know that there is no reason to go on to the next unit until we provide some form of intervention based on what you missed on the first test. So we're looking at, through our RTI process, response to intervention, how are we providing interventions to struggling students, and at the same time, how are we supporting our kids that are performing high? We recently took a trip to the Ron Clark Academy, and Ron Clark Academy is in Atlanta, Georgia. It's a private school, and I encourage you to Google it and look at it. It is so impressive. Now, one thing that they do at the academy is kind of built on the 30-30-30 system, where you have 30% of the kids that are high achieving, 10% of that being gifted. You have 30% that are your average kids. You have about a 30% block that are special ed students or that are struggling students. In their school, they teach to the top. And when you do that, you teach to the top, it creates interventions that you have to have that are built into your system. That's what we're working toward. Not going to happen overnight, but that's what we're working towards. We do see that in some of our schools. We're such a diverse district with such diverse needs that we do have programs in our school where I do believe that's actually happening, but we need to see that everywhere. How are we making sure that we're challenging all students? The next thing is Jumpstart, and we're so fortunate to have Gail Flowers as a part of our team because she is at the implementation step of this with the state. And this is developing, and what this speaks to is, what are we doing, or how many of our kids are graduating ready to go to work? How are we partnering with businesses in our community so that we can make sure that we're getting letting kids graduate from high school with some of those certifications so that they're employable upon graduation. And we're really excited about Jumpstart and what that will produce in the district in the future. The next thing I'll talk about is what we're calling the transformation zone. And I guess this will be a great time for me to introduce my guest. With me today, I have Mr. Billy Snow. And Mr. Snow is the newest addition to my executive cabinet. He's our district transformation and innovation officer. Now, Mr. Snow brings to our district a host of successes and experiences, not only with response to intervention, but also with seeing high results in schools that people don't often think can achieve. We call them like your 90-90-90 schools. 90% minority, 90% socially economic, low socioeconomic, but yet 90% success rates. Renee Ellis, too, is an example of that. And what you see, if you look at our transformation zone, and if you look at the schools that created our reason to talk with the Recovery School District, all 10 of those schools average 98% economically disadvantaged situations. So these are not children that come from families with the resources that capital provides. And everyone in this room knows that there are advantages to going on vacation with your children. There are advantages that capital can provide to students. What our transformation zone is going to prove, though, is that with well-researched intervention, with well-researched curriculum and instruction implementation, we can overcome that. And we can see these students perform at very high levels. Now, a part of our transformation zone, and they are working aggressively, and I tell everyone, after you pray for me, pray for them, because it is a challenging task that they have ahead of them. We've hired 10 principals that we put through, and I know in Caddo history, the most rigorous interview process. We started with a traditional interview. From that, we identified 20 people that we sent through what we call the behavior event indicator. That was a 2-hour interview where we had a group come in. The leader of the group, she has a PhD in industrial psychology, and one of her claims to fame, we were just so fortunate to get her. She actually did this DEI process on the Obama administration. So she has definitely had the credentials to know and to be able to read characteristics in people. And what she has done is she's identified characteristics of principals that are capable of leading turnaround. Turnaround is defined as taking a group of kids and in 365 days, seeing them improve. Now, I'm very excited. Before we even received Miss Ellis's scores, she had made one of the top scores through this indicator. So her scores coming out and indicating that yes, she turned Westwood around, and her leadership and her staff turned around in a year was to no surprise to us. We're looking to see that happen in 10 schools. Mr. Snow is looking to see major growth, and in fact, he's talked about, one thing that I would say that I often say I want to see all schools focus on achieving at an acceptable level. He's come to me before and says, why do you say that? Why don't you say A schools? And again, I just think that oftentimes we're taking baby steps, but I'm really encouraged that we have leadership in place in these schools that think A. So we're looking forward to when we talk about this next year about this same time, seeing all of our schools moving in a positive direction. The last thing I'll talk about is magnet seat expansion, and then I'll open myself up to questions from the room. One thing I would say, and as I look at this district, and I was actually a part of this district, I mentioned I was a neighborhood kid, but I was a part of this district when we established the magnet schools in our city. And what I will say as superintendent, I do believe that we are who we are, and we are still a growing city because of our magnet seats. I am a huge component of choice. I think that there is a place for charter schools. I think there's a place for private schools. I think there's a place for public schools, and certainly a place for magnet schools. I think that if I look at even my relationship with some charters that I've approved since I've been superintendent in Caddo Parish, I think that if they provide a unique need to our district, it's appropriate to approve as well as support those programs. I think parents need to have and deserve to have choices. Now, I do believe as a public school system, it is our responsibility to aggressively work to be the best choice, but people need choices. One thing that we saw in our district that was a major problem was that we would funnel so many students through our elementary magnet programs where we get to this funnel at the middle school where there would not be enough seats to even accommodate those students that have already gone through the elementary ranks. We have not totally fixed that, but we did do some expansions, and then we opened a new magnet component at Oak Park Micro Society, and that'll be a 5th through 8th grade component, as well as we did an expansion on our seats at Broadmoor. So we looked at, serving the west and the east side of the districts. How can we help with that CMM funnel? To be honest with you, I mean, we don't have enough seats at CMM for every student that's trying to get in that school. We were seeing some 400 to 800 kids not qualified for seats. And those are families that, quite honestly, we need to stay in our school district. So we need to make sure that we're offering something that's attractive to them. Last thing, and then we'll take questions, is that we're currently entering a stage of strategic planning. If you look at how we're managing our human resources, how we're managing our facilities, and I will tell this group, as I tell all groups, Not something I'm gonna fight this year, but we're going to have to fight the facilities battle soon with the current aging facilities that we have in our school district. So from an operations perspective, how do we deal with that? I think when you look at things like how are we providing, ensuring that we have a safe and secure learning environment for students, those are things that we're going to tackle. Parental and community involvement during our strategic planning process. The way we're designing our planning process, everyone in this room or this district will have an opportunity to participate. We currently are working with an we have an RFP out to try and find the right provider. We do want this done right. We want this to produce a 3 to 5 year strategic plan that we can use to guide how we function as a district for the next 3 to 5 years. I am very big on having a plan and following the plan. Now, I do believe plans can be modified, but if we don't do that in a job at the magnitude of mine, I find myself chasing fires every day. The good part about the strategic plan is that it gives us all focus. We know what direction we're moving in. So we're really excited about starting that process late summer, early fall for our district. Okay? The fun part, what are your questions? Okay, that goes to the very back.
A quick question. I've got my youngest grandson goes to Eden Gardens. He gets to be in 2nd grade this next go around, and we can't figure out his homework. So that's always fun. Of course, that doesn't say much about me, but I'm a grandfather. Yeah. And I wanted to, do you all do anything joint with the Chamber of Commerce? The president of our company, she met with the Chamber of Commerce early on, and they centered the courses with Southern University and with LSU and with the business community. And they got her started when she was 17, and she's 35 now, doing a fantastic job. The other thing is job readiness in education. When they graduate, I guess you still got DECA and things like that, but they made salespeople out of people. When they were ready, they were selling themselves, they were selling products, they were selling services through the DECA programs. I don't know if that's as strong as it used to be. And also, my daughter's building a house right now, and I think half of Mexico is working on it, and it's really got me bothered. Why don't we have bricklayers? Why don't we have concrete people? Why don't we have more of that out of high school? Not out of other things, but out of high school. Why aren't these people ready now?
Right. I've been trying to answer those. First off, shame on you about that homework. No, I'm joking. And you know, they add different these days. They don't add like we learn. So there can be some challenges to what you're doing. And thank you for your questions. As far as the chamber, really excited about what I would say is a renewed relationship with the chamber. And I think that's, when you say that's fair, Dick, that we are in the process of renewing our relationship with the chamber. Chamber has been most supportive and gracious since I've arrived in the city. And we've worked with President Helen Godfrey-Smith, recently spoke at an event and talked about different ways that the chamber will partner with public education. And again, I believe we impact the city's development so much where we have to cultivate that relationship. One thing I will say, when you talk about what are we doing to be prepared, one thing, I was at a graduation, and it was either Booker T. Washington or Green Oaks, where the valedictorian and the salutatorian were both going to college to become teachers. And it was Green Oaks, okay? And I just thought it was really interesting, and Ms. Flowers and I have had this conversation about why are we not offering those kids contracts when they graduate from high school? We have so many summer programs in our school district where we can bring them back every summer, let them intern with us so that they learn the Caddo way. And then when they graduate, if they don't get a felon, Mr. Bird with that, they don't get a felon, we will then hire them and put them in a classroom. So there are some things that we are working on that will do just what you're describing. I do think one of the things that we're also doing, and Ms. Flowers is leading this effort, is we are inventorying what are some of the needs of our community as far as what manufacturing jumps out. There are some huge manufacturing needs in this community. As we look at those needs, we're going to look at how do we develop and redefine our career programs so that we're meeting the needs of the community. It really is a new day and age from everyone having to go to a 4-year college, pledge a fraternity or sorority, and then graduate and go back to school generally or make less money than what they spent on 1 year of college. we live in a time where we're going to have to provide, we're looking for ways, how can we provide ways for people to make quality livings, raise their families, and do that within this community. So everything we talked about, we are looking at how can we better support. What I will tell you, though, is that it's not a short-term answer. We're looking at this strategically over a 5-year period so that we're building programs so that we're not just having to change all the time. Yes, sir. Well, actually, I was going right there, but I was going to come to you next. How about that?
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
My daughter-in-law works at the Caddo Magnet, she's art, and I realize this is a hard question for you, but most of the problems are put on the teachers by the state of Louisiana. But I was hoping you would look and see if there's any possible way that you could cut out some of the requirements that they have to do other than teaching. He says they don't have time to teach because of all the red tape that's involved.
And that is a hard question. And what I'll tell you is I often tell people that there was a time, I remember when I first started teaching, where you went to work and you just taught. You picked a lesson. You could spend 2 weeks, 3 weeks on your favorite lessons. I mean, but times have changed, and I tell you, we have entered an era of accountability, which then brings a lot of bureaucracy with it. And we do work as a school district to minimize that as much as we possibly can. But some of it, it's not just the state, it's just the system that we're currently working within. And it's that high level of accountability. So, but we do work as a school district to minimize that as much as we can. That was a hard one. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm Miles Hitchcock. I'm a new member, and you may think me out of place for what I'm about to say as a new member, but I've been thought of out of place. I served on the Caddo Parish School Board for 8 years. I ran for the school board because I grew up in the Caddo Parish Public Schools. I went to Queensboro Elementary, Lakeshore Junior High, and Fair Park High School. I started college, and I didn't take any remedial classes. The first math I took in college was calculus, and I was prepared for college at Fair Park High School and Caddo Parish Public Schools. I ran for the school board in 1994, and I did it because I believe that most of the problems of our society have to do with an education. And I wanted young people today to have the education that I had in Caddo Parish Public Schools and the opportunity that I had in Caddo Parish Public Schools. We have not mentioned today, and it's not Dr. Goree's place to mention it today, the 800-pound gorilla in the room. And that is the Caddo Parish School Board. I found myself in the midst of 12 people, and exactly one had the interests of children at heart and at a priority. Our school board is made up of nearly 50% of retirees from the school system who make horrible board members because some of them have agendas and out to straighten things out and believe that they're the superintendent instead of the board member. And we have permitted that to go on in this society. The next great challenge for Shreveport, Louisiana is not the sewer system. It's not aging water pipes, and it's not potholes. It is our public school system. This man was hired on a 6-6 vote. Does that tell you? Does that give you a clue? After a 6-6 vote. And what I'm urging is, I've been a Rotarian for 18 years. I'm president of the West Shreveport Club, and I watched you from a distance. This club has long been known as a key cog in the leadership of our community. And I wonder if you might not consider reclaiming that role. The discussion about the future of public education in Caddo Parish has to start with the school board. And until that is fixed, this man is trying to go around it. Of all of the things he talked about, did he mention the school board? He talked about things that he's trying to do. On my second meeting as a member of the board, I moved to cut board members' pay to nothing. I believe that parents and people like you would serve on the school board for nothing because you recognize it to be so important to the community. I voted to cut out all benefits. I made a motion to do that. And things like that. And the board would have no part of it.
Miles, I think we're past our time.
I'm about to read. I'm asking you to consider getting involved in this, is all I'm saying. I'm asking you to consider fundamental reform and being a leader in fundamental reform. Sorry, Carol, but his talk inspired that kind of.
Well,
Thank you so much. I will say in closing, I have so much respect for you and your service to our city, as well as your comments as well. I will say, though, of the board, and again, I'm not here to be their cheerleader or to tear them down, but I will say that I'm so excited, my staff is really excited that because of the job that we're doing, we've gotten into the board, we've had minimum major concerns. We have had countless 12-0 votes, which, as we all know, a year ago just didn't happen with this board. So I do believe we made some progress. It's election year, I get that. But we have made some progress. And again, the one thing that I'll take from out, if I can steal it from, get involved. I do think you need to be involved in who your board members are. I do think you need to be involved in how we're effectively supporting struggling schools, as well as supporting your neighborhood schools and our magnet schools. Thank you so much for your time. Caddo Parish is always available if you need us. I welcome the opportunity to speak to any group about the things that are going on in Caddo Parish, because I am truly Caddo proud. Thank you very much.